Hello there. In this video I'm going to show you how you can take plain tokens like these and make them stand out a little more with one simple trick. When you purchase any LaserForge tokens, you'll find them like this. They will have a rough surface where the lasering process has etched markings into one face, and on the reverse side there will be a protective film. On this side I've already removed this token as film. As you can see, there is a very slight difference in the colour because the acrylic we use is transparent. Now, we often get emails and messages from customers saying that the colour of the etching isn't quite what they expected, and sometimes the contrast is a little bit dull. Unfortunately, that's how laser cutting and the etching process works, as we don't use paint machines to make the patterns on the tokens. But that's not to say there aren't ways to improve these tokens. There are a number of ways to colour in the etched patterns, and we have had particular success in using either acrylic paint pens or acrylic paint using a brush. You might think this sounds terribly tedious and fiddly, but it really isn't. It's possibly one of the least messy ways to add colour, vibrance and contrast to your tokens, and I'll show you how in this video. So here I have some of our latest tokens which initially look a little dull and could be a bit more difficult to read in a less well lit area, which isn't ideal. But what I have here are a couple of different products to help. At this point, I would like to point out this is not a sponsored video. These are just a couple of products that we've had great success with. This is a play marker from AK Interactive. It's just a flat white colour. And this is a Dale Rowney Artist ink. Again, just plain white. Now for this demonstration, I'll be using the ink with a paintbrush purely because the ink flows very well into the etched surface without much effort on my part. And the paint pens are very convenient, but the coverage is not as good as the ink, and it will generally take 2 to 3 coats. So all I'm going to do is take the ink and just dot some ink into the etching in a couple of different places. We don't need to worry about being super sloppy because the paint, when we move into the next step, won't actually stick to the glossy areas. All I'm going to do is take a brush and just push this paint into the recessed etch areas. And the recessed etch areas are going to help us later when we come to clean this up. Like I say, we don't need to worry about being super sloppy. We can literally paint the entire face of the token if we really wanted, but that will make life a little bit more difficult. Just add a little bit more. Make sure the token and the etching is well covered with the ink. Now I can hear some people screaming that I need primer. Where's the primer? And actually we don't need it. In fact, primer will actually make this process a little more difficult. It's quite simple. The laser etching process essentially burns a small amount of material off the surface of the acrylic, leaving a rough, slightly recessed surface, making it a fantastic key for paint to stick to. Plus, we don't want paint actually sticking to the non-etched areas of the token, which primer would actually provide a key for, and so it would work against us. So we'll let that coat dry off, and for the purposes of this video, here are a couple I prepared earlier. Now, this one obviously hasn't been cleaned up yet, but these two are a couple of different stages. There. So once this has dried off, which this one now has, It should take only a few minutes for the tokens to dry off. You can use a hairdryer, but always make sure the tokens are cooled down before you start doing anything else with them. All you're going to need is some kitchen paper. I have 2 sheets back to back, and some isopropanol alcohol. All I'm going to do is just drop a little bit of alcohol onto that tissue paper, place the token face down in the alcohol, and just very lightly press it down, barely any pressure at all, and just rotate that in circular motions, and then go off into a dry section. And just like that, you've got a painted token. Now sometimes you might find some little bits and pieces in between letters or in between the patterns. That's fine, you just keep going, and you can always apply another coat later. This one was done using the paint pens. As you can see in the middle, the coverage isn't fantastic, but using the ink, it's much more solid on a single coat. But even with this, I'll actually use the paint pen on this again, and you just go back over and do the same process again. And again, there's no need to panic about being super neat or clean or tidy. And we can just give that a second coat. Let that dry off and repeat the same process. And that's really it. So the whole process is actually quite simple and easy. It is a little time consuming, which is unfortunately why we can't offer this service, because the amount of tokens that we sell, we would be doing nothing else but painting tokens. Thanks for watching the video, and I hope you found it useful.